Good evening, the time is 7:06. We're at the SAC Room 2, time, date is November 9, 2021. Public comment, this is the business committee meeting.
Not at this time.
Item to be reviewed by the business committee meeting for information only. Item A, notice to grant application to submit on behalf of the district.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, and guests. I bring to you tonight 2 notices of grant applications we're intending to submit on behalf of the district. The first one is the Texas COVID Learning Acceleration Support After School Grant in conjunction with federal programs to provide potentially after-school tutoring in support of House Bill 4545 with an amount to be determined. That's because depending on which model we take, depends the level of funding they'll give us. The second grant is the Early College High School T-STEM grant in conjunction with Career and Technology to develop academic pathways for students to earn college hours and complete a level 1 or 2 certificate at LC, and that's up to $175,000. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. B, teacher substitute report.
Yes, sir. We already covered this during the instructional committee.
Item C, replacement of Clark Bond project.
The same with that item,
Item D, replacement of Salinas Bond project.
sir. Same with that item.
Item E, review of legal policies in TSBA.
Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Molina, and Mr. Ramirez, members of the audience. Once again, we bring for you review of legal policies for update 118. In all the years at central office, I have never seen an update this big. And so these are based on the 87th regular legislative session updates. These are all legal policies. We've given every section to our administrative team at the district level, and they have reviewed these policies. Really, it's just for your reference. It's not approval. It's just an information item for you all.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Garcia, the bond and all that stuff is going to go to the main board meeting, right? Yes, sir. That's correct. It's all for the board.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It was presented for informational item only at the instructional committee.
Good.
Thank you.
Item A, approval of monthly disbursement.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Rodriguez and board members. The Division of Finance is presenting the disbursements for the month of October. Do you have any questions at this time?
No. Thank you. Item B, approval of resolutions for the election of board of directors for the county appraisal district.
Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Molina, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the audience. We're being here the approval of the resolution for the election of the board of directors for the Webb County Appraisal District. The UISD is entitled to cast 2,131 votes to elect a member to the board of directors of the Webb County Appraisal District. We only need 840 votes to solidify a seat on the board of directors. So what we have is the resolution that we split the votes between the 2 candidates, Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Ramirez. So this will be bring to the full board next
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes,
Board meeting.
the board meeting, so you can cast your votes at that time.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Item C, approval of resolutions of the board's trustees regarding relocation of the bond proceeds of certain school facilities.
Yes, sir. That was presented at the instructional committee, and that is also going to the regular board meeting next Wednesday for approval and consideration.
Item D, approval of updated tabulations of RFP 2020-002 Armor Car Services.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Molina, Mr. Ramirez, and Mr. Rodriguez. We have an RFP that was brought to you in April as a renewal for the 21-22 school year, which is the armored car services. Since the beginning of the year in October, what happened is our depository contract with the bank closed their vault in Laredo, and now all of the deposits have to be taken to San Antonio/Shirts, which The vendor has come back and said, the bid did not call for those extra 150 miles as well as the additional scanning of bags that they have to do to store the deposits, to take the next day. And so we brought for your approval an updated tabulation that reflects the additional charges. And this is about an additional $200 a month to the district. It is competitive. If you look when we originally put this out the year before, it is still under what the second vendor had proposed at that time. So we feel that the price increase is fair, and so we're asking for your approval to implement these charges.
Any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Item E, approval of awarding bids, proposals, and qualifications.
Thank you. So we have the following recommendations for your consideration. RFP 061-2021, graduation supplies. The recommended vendor, Burke Jones and South Texas Golf Board. RFP 073-2021, LED marquee maintenance and repair to Golden Rule Signs and to M1 Networks. RFP 070-2021, student extracurricular insurance to the brokerage store. The estimated annual amount for this contract will be $437,934, and the price is firm for the first 2 years. The renewal for years 3 to 5 would be at a no more than a 10% increase, but we would bring them to you at that point. So right now, we're just asking for the first 2-year approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 renewals for your consideration as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item F, approval of low attendance day waiver of Johnson B. Alexander High School for the following day of October 19th.
Yes, sir. For the following 2 items, actually, F and G, those were already discussed at the instruction committee and so on.
We'll go all the way to item H,
Correct.
approval of first readings of the local policy and updates 118.
Thanks for good evening once again, board members. We do bring before you several local policies, and I provided the summary of each one of them. I would like to state for the record that we are, EHAA is not included in your package, so that one will be included for next week. But this is first reading. Again, our administrative team has already reviewed these policies, making these reference specific, and if you want more information with regards to the policies, I can provide that if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item I, discussion of possible action regarding interlocal agreement with the MOU between Wood County Juvenile Board and UISD for 2021-2022.
I apologize if this MOU was not included in your packet, but is a renewal policy with regard to a renewal MOU that will be placed in your packet next week as well.
And there were just minor changes. I've already reviewed the changes that are being proposed, and they'll be up for approval at the next board meeting.
Item J, discussion of possible action regarding district community service hours program.
I did include in your packet the community service guidelines that we have. This was brought up as an agenda item, and the board members who brought this up are not here, so I don't know what questions they may have had with regards to community service hours.
How is that going to work? It's from the schools or?
Yes, sir, it is up to the schools, but there are certain criteria that we would have. We list examples of what they are and examples of what is not. So we say if there's no supervision by an adult, that's not community service.
I used to have community service in the city, so, but it used to be like for hours for the judges and hours for the justice of the peace and all that stuff. Is that part of that also?
If it says promoting a political candidate, they're running for office, that is not allowed. If it's somebody already in office having a function for their organization, for their area, then that would be allowed. But it's not somebody where we would say, well.
No, I was just saying, no, they would send the people that had tickets and everything
Oh, yes.
to the
sir.
community center,
Yeah.
to do the hours.
Yes, sir.
This
This is for students, what we're doing, because we're giving them.
No, I used to have students also, but in the summer and during the holidays, they usually would help us. At the whole district?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay.
If you said if they're running for political office, right, am I correct?
Yes, sir, it does
Or what if
say,
they're not?
If they are not,
And
then
they're just assisting by helping out with students when they doing community hours from the city and the county to complete their hours for, I guess, for their high school.
it's for the
Graduation.
it's for the recognition and
Because, I
graduation.
mean, nobody has the power to give unless it's either the judges or somebody is backing up the person that's going to be giving the hours to get to, in other words, to pick something to adjust in a way to give community hours, somebody has to approve it. And it has to be either,
At campus level, sir?
no, but the judges also give 2 to 1. Just anybody cannot just give 2 to 1 hours in approving community hours.
We hardly ever give 2 to 1 hours, sir.
Well,
That's right, I mean, we do it maybe
the
for,
judges that I've done with, and when we've done events, they give them 2 to 1. So they were getting 2 to 1 hours.
Like us, the commission will approve the hours from the community center. From the community center, they will send all the requests for the hours, and we can approve. So,
I
you know,
think
because,
it gets a little tricky, sir, because, I mean, a JP from this area may say 2 for 1, and a JP from the north side may not say 2 for 1. And so it varies, and it gets, they're doing the same.
That's how you organize it. When you organize it, it depends who you're organizing it with.
it's gotta have a process, but like, one can come and tell me, you know,
So
I
I can
got
develop
40
a
hours.
form for that, so we can be approved and so forth, because I think it needs to be approved at the campus level and at the district level as well. And
I would say that the district level, not the campus level, because, like if he comes over and he says, you know what, I got 40 hours, and I just sign it, and he doesn't even do the hours, because I know him, and it has to be something structured, where nobody's gonna get away with just signing hours away.
I can certainly create that and look at other districts, see what they're doing.
I mean, actually, I mean, this is something to help our students. And if somebody else would have thought about it or done it, I mean, I'm pretty sure it would be appreciated if it's helping our community or our students to complete their community hours for their graduation. You know, and it's something that's been done because I've been involved in several community hours given, and my understanding, and I can make it very simple. I know my wife did one. She's not running, and she's not announced for any running. She just decided to help on the community hours. But I got involved in it because I am a board member, and I wanted to help our students. So I reached out to some of the judges, and they agreed to give 2 to 1 to the students. So I think it was something very, very fair for all of them to give 2 to 1 hours for them. So if that's what it's all about, I want to put it out in the public.
Yep.
And I think that's the reason why Mr. Castillo called and asked me if I would co-sponsor this item with him. And the way he explained it was, he wanted to know, first of all, like Mr. Molina said, uniformity, who approves of the community, who gives the final stamp, this is an approved activity for hours. And then secondly, he had a concern, and he spoke to you, Mr. Gonzalez, about certain politicians getting involved with students, and he felt like politics and students do not mix, like keep them separate. We want this to be instructional, nonprofit related type of community service hours. And so I think that was the whole purpose that he placed on the agenda, was for that purpose, to see the uniformity of it, the structure of it, at what level is it approved, and then, like you said, uniformity with the community service hours, and then he was concerned with the politics of it. That
Well,
was Mr. Gonzalez.
and I'll put it to this, that this has always been going on. Prior to you all being on board, we've always seen this before, and even before Mr. Castillo was even on the board. You know, this has been happening for the longest time. And we went to you also to get it back before we did it. And I think our legal counsel approved it, and we agreed on it, and we did it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it if it wasn't legal.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think he's saying it's illegal, and I think it would be nice if that was approved. I think he just wants to see the procedures that were approved. I don't know when they were approved, but he wants to see that.
They should be in your packet.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's just a guideline that we have, the very, we don't have forms or who approves or so forth, but we can tighten, of course, the processes.
Yeah, and
But
again,
it does say nonprofit, it does say for non-political purposes.
yeah, and that was his concern, and so he asked me if I would agree to, because we need 3 board members to sponsor an agenda item, and I did. And more, my purpose was for more what Mr. Molina was saying, you know, there needs to be uniformity. If one judge is gonna say 2 hours, then you know what, across the board. And are we gonna allow politics, or can they do it, you know, for a community center, for the county? Well, that's a nonprofit. But it gets kind of sticky because they're governed by politicians, so
The
I
food
guess that's
bank,
where legal comes in.
Yeah, and I think Lisa, you're right. If it's gonna be here, we cannot say to each judge, hey, we need to be uniform. I guess each entity has their own way how to run their court, so we can't tell them how to run the court or how many hours they can give. You know, that's jumping into something to.
Oh, I get what you're saying, I get what you're saying. And I think we're talking about 2 different things. You're talking about what the judges decide to give out as community service hours for tickets or et cetera. And
See,
we're talking,
that
that's
doesn't
separate and
count.
apart.
This doesn't count for the
Well,
courts, or what you're saying does
And
not.
I understand that, but I mean, on things like this, you know, that's sometimes when we get
Because
involved.
that's required.
Yes, that's
This is
required.
voluntary.
And this is voluntary,
Correct.
exactly. But I mean, all in all, I mean, if they're talking about politicians, that's how politicians get involved. But we don't give any community hours to any of the judges because they're the ones that are giving the time, because if let's say for the attendance, if the judge gives them time to do, or whatever reasons they give them time, they have to do some type of community hours. And if they go pick up whatever they're gonna go clean the park or anything to that effect, you know, I think it's all fairness, because the kids wanna
Yeah,
do it.
that I don't think, that's not our realm.
You know, I don't think that's politics.
We can't tell the judge
No,
what to
that's
do.
separate and apart.
Yeah.
This is for your community service guidelines that are directed by the campus at the district
So
level.
what are the guidelines?
It's just, it defines what community service is. It basically talks about being a foster civic and social responsibility. It talks about this year, there's no grades for this, that we cannot give grades for this. It has to be voluntary. This year, we actually cut it down to 40 hours as opposed to 75
Well,
hours.
my
for the
question,
board.
and I understand that, but who can give community hours?
Let me go down. So it goes examples of what community service is. Nonprofit organizations, sir, club activities performed, Boys and Girls Club, food bank, hospital, retirement home, orphanage. We talk about peer tutoring, after school, not during school or weekends. We look at after school or weekend camps, cleanups, beautifications, voluntary for
Okay,
habitat.
there we go, stop. Cleanup and what?
Community cleanup.
No, it's community cleanup. Cleaning a park is considered what?
Weekend or after-school campus community cleanup, yes.
So that would be-
For non-profit organizations,
Nobody's charging.
correct.
So
And we-
then anybody can do it.
Well,
Anybody,
then it keeps on going, it says not serving political.
but there's no political. That's my question. That's where I'm going to, what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I think what happened, sir, was that there was an event that the shirts that were being given to our students had vote for.
No.
what
You
kind
show
of-
me that, where it says that.
Not, it was just recent, sir.
No, I don't think that's.
About a week ago. sir.
No, this is recent.
And that's
That's separate, and
everything
that's what happened.
Yeah, no, this
And
is
so this is-
related.
this is why-
Something else.
This is what happened in that.
And that can throw our office to be advised that the shirts be modified.
I just
So-
want
so we-
to
we-
clarify that because,
No.
you know, I just want to clarify and clean this up because I know we had one and we did it for the students.
Yes, so that was
I try to help my schools.
That was already in August or so forth, this was just recent.
No, that's not a reference here. This is something else that happened and it was very.
And that's why it was brought up again.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need some clarification. If t-shirts or any merchandise is to be given out, it cannot be political.
And that's what it says, it cannot promote a political candidate or an individual.
And you gotta understand, again, I'll just clarify again, I'm sorry.
Okay, fine.
But the media would have not picked it up when we did it, when we did United South and OBJ. And the media would have not put it if it was political. So the one we had was not political, because the media picked it up and it came out in the news. So we'll keep on
We
it.
just cannot promote an individual, very clear, or a political candidate.
But then the cleanup, what are they gonna do, the cleanup? They're gonna,
It was actually already held, sir, they did modify the shirt, it was this last.
yeah, they're gonna clean up like what, outside?
The park, sir, north
You
section.
know, I agree with everything you said except the cleanup, you know, they're students. You shouldn't put them to clean up. You can put them to help, like the food bank, the community center, the elderly programs, all that stuff. But the cleanup, I don't think goes to the, for students, to me.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one.
You know. Yeah, they got more pride in to be cleaning up. They can be helping, elderly or
Every, all the other.
other, a library or
I can modify this.
If you can modify that and everybody agree, I think that's.
So is that something we're gonna pull out of consent also and put on a regular agenda item as well?
Well, really quickly, there's gonna be no action taken, and also right now we do have board members up here that.
I know, yes, I was called in to clarify.
No, I think like any step into the.
Yeah.
Already did, and without giving any action, we can either.
No action whatsoever. Yeah, I was asked to come in and clarify why, and I understood why. And I just wanna say, semi for the record, it had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, but really quickly, this is just an informational item that can come back to the board at the next meeting for approval. The administration is ready to recommend the administrative guidelines regarding this.
Yes, yeah, I think so, I think we
That's
should
needed
go with
by-
that.
Well, but it's good for everybody to know what's going on.
No, absolutely.
So,
Right. I'm just concerned.
I just wanna make sure that everybody understands what we're trying to do, to give the students a purpose to go do stuff, to learn, like in the community center, a lot of kids were afraid of the elderly. So I would bring them in and they would deal with the elderly, we would have dances, and they would dance with them, and then they fed them, and they loved them. But they never had the outcome to make with the elderly. And that, I think, or the library or other stuff that they had never done. So it's a good, very good thing.
No, absolutely, 100%, I agree, sir.
And just the way it's worded is the way it'll be worded for the regular meeting, so you're not taking action. Right?
There's not gonna be no action on the board meeting, or yes.
Oh, well, it'll be an item for individual consideration.
It could be for individual consideration, or this isn't anything that requires board approval, it could be something.
Yeah, but it's been there, so it's just something that we just have to do.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay,
Thank you. Any discussion of possible action on roles and responsibilities for board committee assignments?
I understand that this one was, I guess, one of the members wanted to know exactly who made the selection on there. So, Mr. Castillo, so,
Yes,
we'll
sir.
remind next week.
Again, I can go for discussion at regular board meeting. But my understanding is it was related to, I guess, duties and responsibilities of committee members and assignments.
Selection of committee members.
What's
You get selected.
the responsibility?
Correct.
You're gonna break it down from, what they're supposed to, or which.
Sure, if you request that, we can.
Item L, approval of request of board members and use of board trustee position funds and various funds.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Molina, Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the audience. There are no additional requests other than what you have received before you or what has already been approved by you all. Any additional requests that happen from here to the board, we'll present at the board meeting for you.
Thank you.
And before we adjourn, I just wanted to recognize Mr. Ramirez, have him a great Veterans Day for his service to our country. Mr. Ramirez, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Motion to adjourn?
I know you're making so